you doing, Israel?
Walking backwards.
Don't do that.
Why not?
Because you ain't no outlaw. We're in for a fight. What is your business?
Well, I like to say that we're harvesters of souls.
Yeah, I'm so confused. Start the show!
Welcome to Cordkillers. When you get right down to it, this show is about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. That's right. It's about you. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, but mostly I'm confused because that looked like a high-quality Coen Brothers movie, and yet I kept seeing the Netflix logo in the corner. What's all that about?
Well, if you watched Cordkillers, Brian, you'd know that the Coen Brothers have been making a movie just for Netflix.
Okay, well, if you watch Brian Brushwood, you would know that he's very good at setting up segues to introduce guests like our friend Andrew Zarian of GFQ Network. So good to see you, man.
I'm glad I'm back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So are you a Coen Brothers fan? Are you familiar with this project?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it, actually.
Tom, okay. Feels like now's a good time for us to talk about our primary target.
I can't disagree less.
Good save.
Netflix is softening on its hard line against anything but day and date release on Netflix. We've talked about it a million times on this show, how Netflix is like, nope, we'll put it in the theaters, but the day it goes in the theaters, it goes on to Netflix, and there's nothing you're going to do about it, and you're still going to give us awards. Well, they're finally backing off, and in fact, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs from Coen Brothers is an example of 3 movies coming out from Netflix that will go into theaters first. Ballad of Buster Scruggs will go into theaters November 8th with a Netflix arrival only 8 days later, November 16th. Bird Box, which stars the lovely Sandra Bullock, comes to theaters December 13th, 8 days later, comes to Netflix December 21st. But Roma from Alfonso Cuarón, which has Oscar buzz already, will have a limited release in Los Angeles, New York, and Mexico on November 21st, and it is not coming to Netflix, the streaming service, until December 14th. Variety believes this is a concession not to the theaters, but to the directors who want to see their movies shown in theaters, first of all, but also know that there's a prejudice against movies not shown in theaters or even shown in theaters day and date of streaming by the voting people in the various award services, particularly the Academy.
Listen up, Netflix. Mo talent, mo problems. I'm sorry. You finally have attracted the best and brightest in the business. And guess what? They like the traditional Hollywood model. They like having their movies shown in theaters and people standing up and clapping and doing Q&As and feeling awesome. And if you want the credibility that comes with, like, real Best Picture winners and so on, then I think you got to do that crazy Hollywood dance.
I've got a question for you, Andrew Zarian.
Yes.
Does this feel more like a Quickster moment where Netflix was wrong and they're now backing out of it, going, well, okay, we could do an 8-day window, or maybe even for Alfonso Cuarón, a 3-week window? Or is it a Netflix is just a little ahead of its time moment where they're really going to eventually be day and date for everything for all over the world, but they realize they're too far ahead of their time, so they're just going to soft pedal it for a while?
Well, I mean, this speaks volumes about the maturity of streaming content, right? The fact that you have an opportunity to get these great directors and actors, and your production levels have come to a level where it's major network major network quality TV sitcoms and dramas, and major theatrical release quality film. So I think this is a maturity issue. I think they have to figure out what they want to do and who they want to cater to. Do they want to be a streaming platform where, they release something and here it is, or do they want to kind of cater to it? I'm okay with the wait period. I mean, to be honest, if there's a theatrical release on the 13th and you stream it on the 21st, I'm fine with that. It doesn't really impact me, but I know some people that are Netflix mega fans, people that, they pay the $10 or $14 a month, they could slightly feel upset at this. But I don't know. Do you guys feel like this is a negative or a positive?
I think that for the longest time, it was important that they maintain the facade of day and date is our mantra. We are about blowing up the traditional Hollywood whatever. But at some point, look at Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller, for 20 years, they were countercultural magic. And then all of a sudden they look up and they have the #1 show on the CW or so on. All of a sudden, counterculture ceases to be counterculture and it just becomes culture. And Netflix is at that transition point where it's like they've run against the man long enough to become successful enough that they've become the man. And I think this is the moment that they figure out, not all at once, not suddenly, they whip off the mask and they're like, we were the man the whole time. But instead, I think this is a good way. Their role for the next 2 or 3 years is to keep constantly saying, oh, golly, if it were up to us, you would get everything instantly and it would cost nothing. But I guess it's not, old Hollywood. I hope you vote for us for a best picture. We're gonna have to wait 2 whole weeks of it in theatrical release before it comes to Netflix.
Well, and I think that is the big question. Was this Netflix putting on a position, knowing the reality, or should we take them at face value that they have always believed that day and date didn't matter, that really people will still go to the theaters to see movies when they want to, and they'll stay home to watch movies when they want to, and the release dates aren't really going to push the needle much as theater attendance declines anyway. And so this is all a moot point in the future once this all shakes out. Or is this the moment? Is this the historical moment we point to and say, yes, we were all wrong about day and date. And in fact, the window model will continue forever because Netflix finally realized, oh my gosh, they're right. We have to have a window model for all the maturity reasons that we've been talking about.
Third possibility.
You also have to consider box office success, right? If you do a day and date release, what's the success compared to something that you don't?
Well, Netflix has always argued that it doesn't matter, that they're going to get the money either way. And they don't think the impact on the box office success is as big as the theaters think it is in the long run, because people are not going to the theaters anyway for lots of reasons. And the fact that I can watch it at home isn't going to be as big of a needle mover as everyone assumes it will be.
So originally, Tom, you set up 2 possibilities, that this is them giving up. This is them. All of your scenarios involve them actually believing that day and date was the way, the truth, and the life. The third possibility is that they always knew that this is where they wanted to be. But they also knew that for this many years, if they loudly shout this thing, a lot of people will rally around it, even though they knew from their own metrics, from their own internal research, from their own data, that it's not really what people wanted. So it could be that they've been shouting day and date, full on knowing that nobody wants it. And every time they push for it, it's going to be a loss leader in order to get to this moment where they can loudly and exasperatedly shrug their shoulders and be like, well, I guess we just have to be in the movie business. It's tough to be us, Netflix, the folks who love day and date release.
I don't know that day and date release was ever that big of the rallying cry for Netflix, though, was it?
Well, it certainly was in terms of it was one of many talking points that allowed them,
in the industry.
No. It was one of many talking points that built a mosaic of them being the counter Hollywood. Like in and of itself, I agree. Nobody, not even the Hollywood people cared about it, but it was a bullet point within the Hollywood stuff. It was one of many armaments that allowed them to say, we are the opposite of cable. We are the opposite of traditional Hollywood. We want to empower artists and do all this stuff. And now they have empowered artists. And guess what artists want is to go back to the trappings of Hollywood that they adored so much.
Although a lot of the artists have liked the fact that Netflix gives them the freedom to not work within the traditional structure. So that's still a big part of the attraction to artists for Netflix. I don't know that Netflix didn't believe this. I think Netflix still believes that day and date is the way, because they're very careful to explain that it's not us, it's the directors, which could also fit your narrative. I get that.
Right.
They could be like, well, let's just deflect the responsibility onto somebody else. But I have always believed that Netflix is like, yeah, we make the money when people watch at home. Putting it out into the theaters is just a way to promote the movie for people to watch at home. We don't think that is that there's any other option than day and date releases. And the reason I think they did believe it is because so many other people also believed it in the industry, including a few directors who did iTunes releases as well as indie theater releases at the same time, because to some artists, the argument has been, I just want the people to watch it. I don't care if they watch it at home on their big screen TV or in the movie theater. Whereas other people like Cuarón and Spielberg has said this is, I think it's best seen in a theater experience. Watching at home isn't the same.
Well, let me ask Andrew.
Here's a question. Yeah, I actually have a question about, do we know what the budget for this Coen Brothers movie was?
No, they're notoriously tight-lipped on all of that stuff. They don't. Although I'm glad you brought up budgeting, because one of my theories with Netflix's success is that there are different types of currency. We've talked about convenience trumping fidelity, right? There's the currency of ease of access to it, where we were all willing to take lower resolution video experiences rather than have to find a Blu-ray disc and sit through FBI warnings, right? Likewise, for all of the artists, there's creative freedom. There's ease of distribution. There's ownership of their creative vision or whatever. And then this is, from what I have heard, this is all pure gossip, totally unsubstantiated, but Netflix is frugal when it comes to dollars money. And instead, artists are paid in freedom money and control money and being listened to money and creative vision money. And so this to me feels like them unlocking the, would you also like to be paid in credible chance at an Oscar money? And I feel like this is another non-U.S. denominational currency that they're able to pay in.
Yeah, I think that it is part of we just need to really get a big movie, because they thought they had it with Will Smith and Bright. And that was going to be their big thing to point to, because they put Bright in a few theaters and they could say, hey, look, everybody loved Bright. It was a blockbuster success on Netflix, even if not at the actual box office. And it didn't get that kind of reception. So I think they finally said, okay, you know what? We really need to win an award. And if we're going to overcome the prejudice of the people in the Academy who are tight with the theater industry or part of the theater industry, we're going to have to give on this and get some trophies. And what I can't tell is if Brian's right, where they're like, and we always knew that would be the case, and we're just going to, we'll live with it, and we'll have knocked the window down from 90 days to 3 weeks, and that'll be our big accomplishment. Or if they feel like we'll get a couple of trophies, we'll break the seal, and then we can go back to our old ways because, hey, we got the trophies, and now it's over. You can't fight us on that anymore.
I think before you guys move on, I do want to say this is a great example of the maturity of the platform of Netflix. It's no longer the platform where you go and you just binge watch The Office over and over again. The importance of original content to them has really shaped the direction of this company, and this is the direction that they're headed, where they're going to have these growing pains more and more.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. HBO doesn't get in trouble for not putting their movies in theaters because HBO doesn't pretend to make Oscar winning. Netflix wants to outdo HBO. They've said that before. And so what they're trying to do is say, we're the home of the best original content because, look, we have an Oscar winning movie, and you don't see that on HBO, do you?
Yeah, no, and you know what? Actually, now that you've said it, I hadn't even been thinking in terms of Netflix versus HBO. I had been thinking of it in terms of just Netflix maturing as its own platform. But when you think about it, like, they do have a strong advantage over HBO in that they can crush it in the Oscars in a way that HBO never will be able to. Yeah.
Till HBO starts putting things out in theaters. Who knows? Crazy times are ahead, folks. Keep an eye out. Keep coming back to Cordkillers. We'll keep you on top of it. And in fact, if you want Cordkillers to keep on top of it, there's an easy way to do it. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee, Brian.
Yeah, well, assuming a cup of coffee is either bought by one person or nearly 1,500 of them, turns out it's a lot of cups of coffee. They add up, and all of a sudden we're able to build studios. Tom, have you enjoyed building your new studio at your new house?
I have enjoyed it very much. I feel much more comfortable in my new place.
And you, of course, just had all this money to build a studio because you are a wealthy heir to a coffee empire.
Oh, I think you have me confused with Starry McBucks, your other friend that you do a different show with. I am not the heir to a coffee empire.
Wait, Tom, you're telling me you're not loaded? You're not rich? You're just an independent creator?
Oh, I'm loaded, Brian, but not with money.
How do you pay for all this stuff? You got to build infrastructure.
Well, apparently what happens is every month money appears in my PayPal account from you, And you are just generous. You just give me this money every month to do Cordkillers,
All
right?
Tom, look, I've said this for a really long time. I feel like it's time for me to let you off the hook. It's not me. None of it's been me.
What?
And in fact, I'm ashamed to say this. I've held back some of the money for myself. Turns out I get a cut too. But
How is this possible?
the good news is nearly 1,500 patrons have pledged about $1 an episode for our up to the minute information in a very specific niche. If you guys have gotten value out of this podcast, holy hot dog, we would absolutely love to have $1 if it was worth it. Every month, we're at that weird part of the month where, the first hits, everyone gets charged, and some credit cards get declined. Other people figure out like, oh wait, no, I'm deeply in debt. I shouldn't be doing this. But if you have spare scratch in your pocket, and if you ran into us in person, if you would buy us a coffee and or beer, just do it right now. Just go join the patronage and get your own RSS feed. Get the after talk segment that we only do to patrons. Do to them like it's an act against them. We only do 4 patrons, and of course you'll get spoiler in time immediately 2 days early.
Belly up onto the bar at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. So this is kind of a continuation of our talk from last week about starting these live services online instead of starting a cable channel. But CBS is launching another one of these, ET Live. CBS makes Entertainment Tonight, the show. They're now going to make an entire streaming entertainment network targeted at younger viewers called ET Live after Entertainment Tonight. It will not have extraterrestrials. It will also not have talent from the show Entertainment Tonight, except to come on and promote the show. It's going to have its own slate of talent. It'll run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through an ET Live app for Android, iOS, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And like all CBS properties, it will be in the CBS All Access app, but you won't need to get CBS All Access to view it. It will also be added to the CBS News app, CBSN. So Brian, I think we fall into the trap of seeing these things as additions to CBS All Access sometimes, and it would be stupid if they didn't include them in the app. But these are free networks that you can get now without paying CBS a dime. CBS Sports HQ, which is kind of just a sports news channel. CBSN, a 24-hour, 7 days a week news channel. CBS Local, which brings you, in certain parts of the U.S. anyway, local programming from your local CBS stations, and now ET Live.
So there are 2 lenses to view all of this through. You could look at through the cord-cutting lens and say, oh, these are more value adds that we are bringing to our CBS Online over-the-top network. Or you could, if you broke each of these out and remove the fact that they're going to be on the CBS app, you could just say, yeah, they're really, really late TMZ. They're really, really late CNN. They're really, really late all these other things. But
well, I was going to say, are they late or are they early? Because it depends. You can break that down.
Right.
They're late in the universe of CNN and Fox News, right? But they're early in the world of watching something over the air for free, except on the internet, not with the rabbit ears.
All right. What say you, Andrew?
I don't know. I get. Listen, I get the sports. I get CBS N, which I'll watch occasionally. CBS Local, I understand. But now I feel like what's going to happen here, and they're not the only ones, right? CBS is not the only one. I think all these networks are just throwing everything.
Yeah, we talked about it a little last week, right?
They're just throwing things at the wall and hoping it sticks. I sometimes feel like rather than splitting all these different channels, why not combine it into one where you just have constant live content? Well, I mean that's a possibility too.
I think that's,
and then have the rest on demand.
I think that's sort of where they're headed, but meanwhile, it's like you have to make a bunch of speculative bets. And the smart thing about this is that it allows you to start creating the content and finding the voice of the channel, but in a way with no downside, where it's like essentially the world becomes your focus audience, and you know whether or not you have something worth a damn, so that you can play heavily into that on your over-the-top network.
Well, these are
So
all 24/7 live channels, though, Andrew. Like, why would you combine sports, news, and entertainment into one live channel when you can have 3 live channels?
But is it live content 24/7 or it's?
I mean, they like any live channel. CNN is 24/7 live news,
Sure.
which runs reruns sometimes overnight, right? But yeah, as live as it can be.
No, but
So
I'm
I
kind
have a friend at CBS Interactive on this side of stuff, on the all access side, and he was telling me how a lot of people are scared when they deploy new projects like this. Like, for example, the ET Live channel that they're creating, right? That ET brand. They're going based on the fact that they have 20 or so million visitors to the website. And they have about 4 or 5 million, depending on how you count viewers, right? That's how they're going based on this. If they don't hit that target goal and it fails for, let's say, 6 months, when realistically we know that it takes a lot more time to develop online content and to break habits of people, they're going to turn around and say, well, you see, digital doesn't work. This is all a failure. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So-
And they just shut
But
it
trust
down.
me, man, as a former
I know,
CBS Interactive employee, I'm well aware of the high goals they will often set for their products, despite everyone going, that's really unachievable. I'm not sure. what you're doing.
I'm not going to lie. You
side.
also kind of just broke my heart because you mentioned like how the views are counted. I think of every news site that I go to that autoplays some video that nobody listens to, and it just quietly, silently runs in the background. And I'm certain to advertisers, they are counting all of those as views to, oh, look what a big footprint we have. If I was going to place a bet, and this is a long odds bet that I'm almost certainly wrong on, I would say they continue to build networks. They get to that point that you're talking about, Andrew, where it's like, see, it doesn't work. And they collapse each network into a 90-minute, 2-hour block of programming. And they do kind of exactly what you were saying. They create this 24-hour, essentially another CBS. It's, if they did it right, and I wouldn't even be surprised if CBS Interactive or CBS whatever online gets rebranded at some point as something totally other than what it is right now. So like in the short term, you bank on all your existing brands as extensions. You figure out what's good, what's not good. You cull everything, you collapse everything good, and then you slap a new label on it. Congratulations, you have a brand new network.
I don't think either one of you are far off from being wrong, and you're probably right. But I also see another possibility here, which is, and I know there are people within CBS that believe this, and there are people who think they're wrong, and that's a battle that's going to happen internally there as well. But I think part of what CBS is doing is saying, you know what advantage we have over ESPN, over CNN and Fox News, over the E Network from NBC, is that we don't have to deal with carriage deals for these brands.
So this is all money laundering.
We know the audience is moving from cable to digital, and we can make it really easy for them to switch to us when ESPN is hemming and hawing like, yeah, but we really need a cable subscriber before you can watch ESPN. CBS Sports HQ can say, we're here, just watch it. No barriers to entry. And they're hoping that when that tide really starts to shift, it will raise these CBS boats because they have a competitive advantage over the older brands that can't make the jump as quickly.
Tom, you nailed it. The one thing about everything we've been talking about that doesn't make sense to me is why would you call it CBS? That's the one thing. It's like you're extending an existing brand to no tangible benefit. But if all of this is a money laundering scheme, if all of this is a way to
Allegedly.
cleanse,
Allegedly.
No, but I mean,
He means it metaphorically,
Right.
not an illegal money laundering scheme.
But I'm serious here. Like
Yeah.
if you can somehow cause CBS to ascend to the clouds where it's free of decades and decades of entangling agreements, all of a sudden that makes huge sense. And then what you do is you on purpose shut down NCIS and start a brand new show with the cast of NCIS, only it's called SCIN. It's a totally different show, right?
Right. Or you shut down The Good Wife and you spin off The Good Wife on this. Oh, wait a minute. That's kind of what they're doing.
Well, I mean, the Big Brother thing has been a big success for CBS All Access. The fact that you have the live feeds now on there, it actually brought, I don't know if you guys know how they used to do Big Brother. They used to have the Big Brother show, and then they used to do it on Showtime,
Yeah.
They used to have Big Brother After Dark, and then they used to do I think it was through Real Player, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
it was.
like a
You would have to
24-hour
pay
feed.
them like $15 a month, and you would get like all the different camera
You
angles.
get a
and
lovely
CBS
postage stamp size camera angle.
I'm going to tell you the reason why I know this. I've watched only 2 seasons of Big Brother. I did a Big Brother podcast, and it was probably still to this day the most successful thing I've ever done. It was getting like 200,000 listeners a week. And I was like, I'm kind of into this now. I'm doing this Big Brother thing. But it was so dispersed. It was everywhere. But the fact that they're doing everything in one shot now has really brought a lot of subscriptions to CBS All Access that normally would never have existed. And obviously Star Trek, that's been a huge success for them for subscription. But, as someone that kind of talks to someone on that side a lot, I think that they're one of the only networks that's really aggressively pushing this because of their interactive side, and they understand digital better than most people.
Yeah.
I just don't know the disbursement of content. I don't know how successful that'll be in the long run.
Nobody does. That's the gamble, right? And CBS's advantage, quote unquote, here is they don't have that many cable networks. They have TMC, or not TMC, the movie channel.
TCM?
I think that's theirs.
Oh yeah,
they have one of
channel.
those. Yeah, TMC, the movie channel. They have Showtime. They have a couple of others, but they don't have the big slates that NBC and and ABC and Fox have.
Tom,
or even Viacom.
I think you absolutely cracked the code on this. This is they're just cleansing. They're just washing all of the shows and spitting out versions of the stuff that have clean IPs. In which case it's brilliant. They're playing the long game.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if they hold on and do it. All right, let's talk about what to watch on all these crazy services and under surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location. Under surveillance.
This is just selfish mention, but 6 episodes of a documentary series called Dogs, about dogs, is coming to Netflix November 16th, and I will be watching all 6 episodes.
Oh my God. What a great time right before Election Day for us to say, hey, how about a show about dogs?
How about puppies? Would you like some puppies?
I'll tell you what, if you can't wait for this Netflix original, there was a Nova special narrated by John Lithgow about how wolves became dogs, and it's fantastic. I'm sure
cool.
it's on your local PBS affiliate.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. True Detective has a trailer out for season 3, which will be set in the Ozarks over 3 different time periods: a past in the 1980s, a present of some description, and it looks like a future. Mahershala Ali, Oscar-winning actor Mahershala Ali, plays Detective Wayne Hayes, who's haunted by that 1980s case of 2 missing children. True Detective returns to HBO January 13th.
Dude, this had me totally in love when you get to the part where he's it's not a spoiler, it's clearly the conceit of the show, where he's an old man talking about his scrambled brains, and I thought 2 words. I thought unreliable narrator. I'm going to love this. Like, it's going to keep me guessing, jumping forward and backward in 20-year increments, and then meanwhile, and forgive me for predicting how it's going to end. It's going to end with him as an old man finally putting all the pieces together and finally solving the thing. And if that's how it is, great. If it's a surprise, even better.
I think he disappears at the end as the old man, and we're left unresolved.
No way. No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You think the last line is, "I figured out who the killer is. It's."
No. They go to meet him and he's gone. Nobody knows where he went.
I'm really excited about this, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we're already speculating on how it ends, and we've only seen a trailer. That's a pretty good trailer, I have to say. HBO also released a page called "Everything You Need to Know About the Deadwood Movie So Far," confirming that the movie is coming in 2019. Also lists the cast, which is pretty much all the usual suspects that you would expect if you watched the series Deadwood. And it basically says the plot will take place 10 years after the events of the series, as a reunion of the original settlers in celebration of South Dakota's statehood.
Andrew, am I the only one who thought it was weird that HBO released a listicle article as if they're BuzzFeed reporting on their own content?
I actually was gonna. When I was reading it, I forgot that it was an HBO article I was reading, and it was almost done like a. I mean, it's a press release, right? But it was done in a way
But yeah, normally a press release is very much, for immediate release, fact. You guys tell the story, you're the press.
HBO is a division of Warner Media with stock trading at the blah, blah.
But this is like doing a very credible impression of being a fan-run blog.
Yeah, everything you need to know about Deadwood. I mean, well, clickbait. I mean, first of all, they're doing the clickbaity headlines that you see everywhere, but it is so weird to see a network doing that and reporting
smart
news.
I'd hate to say it, like on the one hand I feel deceived and duped, but also like what's so great about going to a third party and doing that kabuki dance of like, oh, can you pretend like you care about Deadwood so that we could get the views for Deadwood? It's like, no, just
I actually prefer this. I hate it when a journalistic entity compromises its journalistic ethics to do that. I'll give a rat's hat if HBO does it for their own purposes to tell me what's in their show.
I'm so with you.
Yeah. Or the other part where somebody has no idea what Deadwood is, and an editor said, you got to write an article about Deadwood because it's going to be coming back. And they write this top 10 things you need to know about Deadwood. And it's things that nobody cares about. It's
or
the obvious
everybody who cares about Deadwood already
already knows. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. From a selfish aspect, as you know, part of what funds all of the Diamond Club Studio stuff that we do is the online store, and we've been building the articles at themodernrogue.com, and I've recently been wrestling with it seems like, is it weird to do self-sponsored articles about our own cool stuff that we have? Are we journalists by telling crazy stories or I don't know. Weirdly, I feel like HBO has paved the way for me to feel better when we start doing articles about how great our own stuff is in the store.
It's like the J. Peterman catalog of the modern era.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Netflix released a video of Henry Cavill as Geralt from The Witcher. He doesn't say anything. He just kind of walks all witchery up to the camera and looks like Geralt. There's also a full cast list if you're interested in who's playing what. Production is underway in Budapest, and the series, which is based on the novels, not the video game, will air on Netflix in late 2019.
Andrew, did you play either the video game or read the novels?
I haven't, but my brother read the novels. He was really into it. I have not played the video games, but I do have to tell you, he has beautiful hair in that picture.
Yeah,
I mean that's all that matters.
White,
what a beautiful hair.
Yeah, great head of hair. Naomi Watts is going to play a charismatic socialite hiding a dark secret in the Game of Thrones prequel. We've heard it kind of bandied about as The Long Night, but it does not have an official title. It takes place in the early days before the coming of the White Walkers.
So this is back in the quiet period before, spoiler alert, magic sort of comes back online in Westeros, right? This is back when it's still closer to...
Good question about that. I know it's about, they need to build the wall, and the White Walkers appear and why they appear and all of that. And there's something about the elves wanting to get back at the first men, and then they're sorry that they did that and stuff like that.
Huh. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, Naomi Watts is going to be one of those people. Andrew Lincoln's last episode of The Walking Dead aired Sunday. Deadline reports AMC is preparing a trilogy of Rick Grimes movies to go into production as early as next year.
So this is a weird one, and I think
yeah.
Okay. All right. First of all, if you give a rat's ass about Walking Dead, just hit that forward, skip 30 seconds a few times, because
I will say you don't have to say that them announcing this is a spoiler, because they could be flashbacks. They could be filling in gaps. There's all kinds of reasons you could have Rick Grimes movies that don't bear on what happened on Sunday's episode.
Well, and here's the thing. I haven't seen Sunday's episode, but I did think it was peculiar and interesting that I did see the advertisements loudly announcing the last few episodes of Rick Grimes. And what's funny is I just assumed, so he's going to die at, 4 episodes, 3 episodes, 2 episodes from now. But reading this makes me wonder, did he even die, or was it ambiguous, or did maybe he say, I've had enough of you guys? Right now. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. Right?
See, you don't know. It doesn't actually spoil anything.
Yeah. All right.
See, I love spoilers. I'm actually behind in The Walking Dead, but I absolutely love reading about the spoilers. I think I said it the last time I was on here, and it drives people around me insane because I talk to them as if I watched it, but I've only read the spoiler.
What if the movies
My
take
wife
place?
Eileen does the same thing for Walking Dead. She doesn't watch it anymore, but she's all up to date on everything that happens because she just reads every episode something.
Which, by the way, I could appreciate. That's the way I am with wrestling. Like, I love by osmosis getting my wrestling news from you and Justin Robert Young. What if these take place before the zombie apocalypse altogether? Like, it's just stories of him being a cop trying to make his marriage work. And Shane's back and everything.
That, actually.
Him and oh crap, now I'm blanking on his partner's name.
Shane.
Shane. Him and Shane on the beat.
Yeah.
You know,
that would be
down on
amazing.
Teenagers for underage drinking. Anyway, I think the other part of the story that's interesting is AMC making movies, very similar to Netflix, HBO, every other property making movies. And I'll be curious if they release these in theaters or just show them on AMC or what they'll do with them.
Man, who would have thought? American movie classics finally making movies.
You're right. About time. Instant classics. BBC America has given the green light to a series called The Watch, based on Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. We mentioned this was in development. They've given it the green light. They describe it as a punk rock thriller based on the City Watch subset of Discworld novels.
Those were words.
Those were things that I just said. All right, Andrew, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Andrew, what's something you've been watching lately that you think is pretty awesome?
So I have a complaint, actually. Things that I've been watching, but not because I choose to watch it, because YouTube has decided I'm into certain genre of content.
Okay.
Listen, I don't know what happened. A night of heavy drinking. Next thing I know, my entire YouTube recommended list is conspiracy theories about the Egyptians and Mars and fake UFO and fake moon landing. I have no idea what happened to my YouTube. I have no idea why this happened, but it's actually amazing how they've dictated what my recommended list is going to be. So all I'm forced to watch now when I go to YouTube is some guy telling me that Atlantis is in Africa.
By the way, I am the recipient of that same confused rage in the comments on Modern Rogue, because every so often we'll have a swell and the spotlight of YouTube will shine upon us. And then the video, we have a video called How Not to Dissolve a Body and Lie. And like people are offended. They're all like, why is YouTube giving this to me? Why would I ever need to know this?
I'm telling you, I don't know what happened. I feel I have an idea what happened. I watched something about politics, and it somehow auto-played into an Alex Jones video, and my entire YouTube life, it's like my Uber rating. It dropped into idiocy, and now my YouTube recommended list is just insanity. I also get a lot of binging with Babish, surprisingly. I have no idea why.
I mean, that's not surprising at all. That's like saying,
just
for
the
some
combination
reason,
is hysterical to me.
For some reason, the Super Bowl keeps showing up on my Fox station. I don't understand.
It shouldn't happen that often. It should be once every few years.
I'm telling you, no. It's just videos about false flags, how we never went to the moon, and how Atlantis was sometime in at one point in history was sometime in Africa, and binging with Babish. That's all I'm allowed to watch on YouTube.
That's amazing.
You need to just start putting in like really high tone search engine things as a task every day.
Yeah.
Like
I'm just
National
look for
Geographic. Give me some PBS. Give me some Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah. Well, yeah.
That'll restart my YouTube.
By the way, Tom,
totally.
all of this is great in theory, and then you have kids, and the kids don't really pay attention to which account is logged in. And so guess who's watching all these My Little Pony hilarious dubbed videos?
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, that daddy finger, how are you? That nonsense. Do you know about that?
Should I?
Your kids probably just missed it. It's called the Finger Family. And it's a bunch of spammy videos that they put on YouTube that gets hundreds of millions of views. And Johnny and Baby Shark, that's all. It's just spam.
All right, no,
I'm
cool with
led
Baby
me
Shark.
down the Alex Jones rabbit hole.
No, there is a fantastic death metal cover of Baby Shark. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, good to know. Is that what you've been watching? Is that what you have your eyes on this week, Brian?
No, I watched The Usual Suspects, Dirk Gently, The Good Place. I'm going to have to break my promise. I didn't watch all of The Bodyguard like I said we would, partly because having shown it to Bonnie, it's so good, it's now in that awkward category where I'm not allowed to watch it without the lady. And so instead, I got all the way caught up on this season of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which was just so much fun. The 2-part episode where the Eagles win the Super Bowl was a blast. If you're not caught up, spoiler alert, the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
And it's a Charlie episode.
No. One of them is all Charlie, and then the other is the rest of the gang, and it all comes together. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm saving talking about the eternal love possibly till next week, because I think I'll have even better things to say about a Chinese drama on the Viki app that is both a period piece and a time travel story. It's crazy. And apparently season 2 gets crazier, so I'm going to save that. Instead, I'm just going to mention I finally got around to watching Wreck-It Ralph. I'd never watched Wreck-It Ralph.
The original.
I had it because I got it free when I signed up to like Target's streaming service years ago. So the other day, Veronica Belmont was up for PatreCon, and we were just hanging out, and we're like, she hadn't seen it either. So what a delightful movie. I mean, I knew it was good. It wasn't like I was resisting watching it, but really fun thing to just put on and just be delighted and surprised because I had no pressure. I had no assumptions about it.
So how close? Pixar tends to have a flavor, or at least they did up until the last few episodes, where it seems like they're veering a little bit. It's getting a little more chaotic on the quality and everything. But like Wreck-It Ralph came out right close enough to the acquisition of Pixar that it was the first Disney movie that felt, I could almost believe it was a Pixar movie at the time. Are you distracted by that thing, or is that just a Brian thing?
I did never even thought about it. I'd have to sit here and think and maybe rewatch it to give you an opinion on that. It was not even in my mind.
Okay, because I remember the first one that was really dialed in on was Bolt, because like at some point they had announced they were done with 2D anime and whatever.
I'll be honest, I didn't know it was not Pixar or Disney. I hadn't even thought about it. But if you'd told me it was Pixar, I would have totally believed you.
Wild. Okay, right on.
Well, let's see what we should be on the lookout for, Bryce.
Hey everybody! I found that this I did not find this via advertising, or maybe I did. I saw these behind the scenes clips for this on Reddit, like in the cinematography Reddits, and that's what tipped me off to Amazon Prime Video's new original series Homecoming. So this just came out this week. It's an adaptation of the fictional Gimlet Media podcast Homecoming. Julia Roberts stars as a counselor for Homecoming, a live-in therapy program for soldiers returning home from overseas. And it straddles the line by there's funding from a pharmaceutical company, and so there's secondary goals of the Homecoming program. It's great. There's a lot of conspiracy and paranoia, but Bobby Cannavale doing his thing is so good. Also, they're only 30-minute episodes. It's like 10 30-minute episodes, so it's a really easy watch. And also, we've got the trailer up here on the video version. Sam Esmail directing all 10 episodes. The creator of Mr. Robot. It is gorgeous. It's really good, and it's not as heavy, I think, as compared to Mr. Robot. And from what I understand, if you are a listener of the podcast, this show diverts from the podcast about halfway through. So I think if you listen to the podcast, you could watch this and get kind of a different experience out of that. So there are 10 episodes now out on Amazon Prime Video of Homecoming, and they've ordered a second season already. So season 2 will probably be out in about a year from now.
God, there's so much great content these days.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you need to back Cordkillers, because you can't just like turn on the one service and watch cord cutting stuff anymore.
Right. You can't bench press Hollywood. You need a spotter. That's what we're here for.
That's right. We'll give you ideas. We'll send you directions.
We're the chalk.
Been doing it for books on Sword and Laser for years. Okay, I know how this is done. And if you got something we should be able to look out for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com.
Hey,
Speaking of books.
Tom. I just got a pressing text message. That's a new feature, pressing text. It says, hey, I love you guys. I wish there was more ways to give you money. Too bad none of you have side projects. The end.
Buy my book.
What? You have a book.
Yeah. So listen, folks, I write novels. I've got a bunch of them. If you're like, I want to help Tom out and buy some cool stories that will keep me entertained, go to tommerrittbooks.com and you can do just that with more than 12 different titles to choose from. Mostly in the science fiction and fantasy category of stories. The most recent one, called Gallium, for a limited time is exclusively available in print. It's coming to Audible shortly as read by Veronica Belmont. But if you want to be able to say you were cool and read it before that audiobook was out, you got to buy it now at tommerrittbooks.com.
Hell's
Guess what?
yes.
Just ordered it on Amazon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Once you
Fantastic.
read
Hope
it,
you
leave
enjoy
that
it.
review.
Yeah. Make sure to give me a 5-star review. What?
5-star. Best book I ever read. Tom is not a friend, if anybody's asking. I've never met him.
Normally
nor have
I
done
hate
podcasts
Tom
with
Merritt,
him.
but his writing was so good I can't but begrudgingly respect him.
It overcame my intense hatred for him and everything he does.
Shall we move on to the front lines?
Yeah, let's take a look at the front lines.
Frontlines.
Now, HBO usually doesn't get caught up in carriage disputes historically. That's for the broadcast networks and their ancillary cable networks. But now HBO is owned by AT&T, which owns its own cable service, or satellite service anyway, DirecTV, even an online service. And suddenly, HBO and Cinemax are off of Dish and Sling TV, which is owned by Dish, as the two companies could not agree on a new distribution agreement. Among the many barbs being traded by representatives of the two companies, one that sounded at least plausible was that Dish said AT&T wants a guaranteed minimum subscriber payment.
Wow. Congratulations, HBO. You're in the big leagues now. Meanwhile, the PG-13 version of Deadpool.
Well, hold on. It is there's an anti-competitive concern here. You're not concerned by that?
I mean,
it's not that they're in the big leagues. It's that they're owned by one of the companies that owns the pipes, and suddenly they have a dispute with one of the other pipe owners.
I'm not gonna lie, Tom. Like I read this stuff and I just think adult stuff over my head, not qualified. And Andrew, what about you?
Can't we just share the pipes? Can't they just be the people's pipes?
Pass the pipe, AT&T.
Let's just share the pipes.
Yeah.
Pass the pipe, AT&T. The PG-13 version of Deadpool 2 comes to theaters and will have new material, according to writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who were talking to Slash Film. Ryan Reynolds recently suited up and shot a whole bunch of new footage for the film. A still released showed Deadpool reading a story to grown-up Fred Savage in an homage to The Princess Bride. More marketing for the film should answer what else we might see. This might be the smartest financial move I've seen from a major studio in years. The ability to repackage and possibly fix or make a remix version of your own movie mere months for a second theatrical release in the same year. This is extraordinary. I can't think of anything close to this that I've seen in my entire lifetime.
I'm fascinated with what they're going to do with this. And according to them, they weren't trying to come up with a PG-13 version of Deadpool. They were just riffing on stuff with Ryan Reynolds. And suddenly they're like, oh my God, that's a great idea. We should do that. And it all snowballed from there.
I'm not watching it. I don't want to see a grown-up Fred Savage in the movie. Never want to see a grown-up Fred Savage.
Dude, apparently Fred Savage is a badass director. Like he's crushing it behind the camera. So here's what's but this is remix culture, right? It used to be you would see a movie and then it would be a few months. You were like, man, I want to see that movie again. And you go watch the movie again. This is that perfect, like, well, what if it was just a little bit different, a little more fun, had all your favorite parts and a new wrapper around it.
And you could take the kids.
Yeah.
This time.
Oh,
Yeah.
How about that? This is going to break the rules of box office records, because what happens if this does as well as the first and all of a sudden it's competing with Star Wars money? Like, do you count it as one theatrical release or do you count it as two separate movies?
Yeah. Right.
So here's the thing. Is this like an Apocalypse Now?
What do you mean by that?
They re-released it in 2001 as a remix, and it was like a director's cut. But I actually now prefer the redone version, the alternate version compared to the original.
And The Godfather released as a TV miniseries that cut out some of the saucier bits, but added other material. And it was a combination of the first 2 Godfather movies told in chronological order on top of it.
So on top of all of this, Tom, is the weird thing, like, I loved the gags in Deadpool 2, but I was really disappointed by the storytelling of it. I thought that they did a lot of really dumb things. What if the framing and the remixing they do causes it to be a superior story, and all of a sudden I love it as a PG-13 movie?
Yeah. Well, that is interesting, but what's even less interesting is Microsoft has been sending messages to users of its TV streaming service on the Xbox app for Android and iOS, announcing the feature will be ended in 30 days. We spent a lot of time on Cordkillers talking about this TV streaming stick. We got messages from people telling us how to properly pronounce Hopage, which I'm still not properly pronouncing. Apologies.
Hopog.
Not going to do it. Don't care.
Hopog.
They're taking it away. Why should I bother?
Heyo,
Customers who
Paige.
use a tuner stick will be able to watch TV on the Xbox One and the Windows 10 app, but ESPN Plus, which delivers extra sports games to folks willing to pay an extra $5 a month, is coming to the Xbox One and the PS4 as well.
So,
Hopig?
Andrew,
I only know that because Hauppauge is a town in Long Island.
Okay.
Right.
That's the only reason why.
Is this a case of just technology aging out, or of licensing aging out, or of it's not even worth it to support it? Because
I think it sounds like there's just not anybody using it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But it comes down to a couple of things. So I know a little bit about this product. It has to do with the support from the company itself.
Oh, yeah.
And it has to do with the partnership of kind of support, for Microsoft to kind of have it. And the other problem is who really cares about this product at this point? 2018 is a very different world than a couple of years ago, when something like this would have been very high in demand. They had the Xbox 360 have an over-the-air tuner in Europe, and it did quite well. It's relative, right? But it did pretty well. It never came here, but that was their approach to this thing, and it who cares? Who needs this?
Yeah.
I mean, if very few people are using it, I think the modern thing that people are getting used to is you can't just leave a product up forever. It costs money to maintain it, even if it doesn't cost a lot over time. At some point, a company is going to be, why are we paying a developer to spend time on that thing that few people use?
Well, and even if it's well beloved by its core base of users, like I'm viewers of the Modern Rogue know I'm still rocking my Pebble Steel Time, and I'm deeply in love with it, and I just know it's going to be some amount of time until it's just no longer supported to the point that it just breaks and stops working.
You're stealing time.
Hulu is launching an entertainment add-on for its live service that adds networks like CNBC World, DIY Network, and Cooking Channel into an $8 a month separate add-on. Networks like FYI and Lifetime Movies are being moved to the main service from the main service to the add-on. Current Hulu Live subscribers get the add-on for free for a month. Hulu's also offering a Spanish language news and sports add-on for $5 a month. I'm telling you, man, this is more of that money laundering. This is what everybody's building a side property, and then all they have to do is at any moment they could just move all their grade A talent over there, and then all of a sudden, like, why does CNBC suck now? Oh, all the people I love over on this other thing. Let me go over there. You disagree?
Well, I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm following the analogy, because what this is Hulu Live saying, hey, for $40 a month, you get everything. Oh, wait, now for $40 a month, you get everything except these channels, some of which we didn't carry before. 2 of the channels you used to get in the $40 a month package are now over there. So we'll give you that package for free for a month. And then if you still want them, you got to fork over an extra $8 a month.
Sorry. To clarify, when I read this story, all my brain registered is more repositioning and more effort going into over-the-top network versions of existing properties. And I guess I'm dialed in.
These are all just cable channels. These are not over-the-top versions.
Oh wait, CNBC World is the same as just CNBC?
No, CNBC World is a current cable channel, but you usually only get it on like the really highest tiers of the
forget anything I said. Never mind.
Well, isn't that what they're trying to do, though? They're trying to, with their live service, they're trying to really become like a cable provider, right? Where you have tiered plans, and you pay $40 for everything except for the things that you really want, which is sports. That's another $10, and if you want movies, that's another $10. And next thing you know, you're paying $120 to Hulu.
Hulu's big push was one price for everything. That's YouTube TV's push right now too. So the writing's on the wall that they may not be able to keep that up. Finally, Reset Era and Nintendo report some users seeing a YouTube app in the You Might Also Like section of Nintendo's website with a release date of November 8th. It does not return a product page, but many see it, obviously, as a sign that Nintendo's bringing YouTube to the Nintendo Switch.
How big a deal do you think that is?
The only thing on there right now is
turn the
Hulu.
Nintendo Switch into a video consumption device, which it already has Hulu, so it could become more of a device for that.
Well,
whereas right now people don't really use it for that.
Yeah, you know what? Actually,
Well, and it's weird because both like Netflix and Nintendo have been pointing the finger at each other on why there's not a Netflix app, and
Right.
yet the Switch. I don't think it launched with Hulu, but Hulu came very soon to
Very
the launch
soon
of
after,
the
yeah.
Switch. So it's weird that these apps aren't there yet.
yeah, and I'm also wondering, like, I guess I'm not entirely familiar with what is the install base of kids who have the Switch but don't have a phone?
Well, first of all, the install base isn't kids.
Okay, what then in that case, then you do the same question with adults. Although now I'm thinking like,
there are
now all of a sudden you
millions
don't
of
have to get a
units out
Roku
there.
box because you're loving your Switch and you just use it on that. Okay, never mind.
I actually wonder if it's a space issue. If there's something like, because the Switch only has so much memory on it, and you get a micro SD card on it. But if you have Netflix and you're doing the offline downloading, I wonder maybe how that works, because it's a tablet, but it's also a game.
There's also
console.
the relationship. Netflix wants to own the relationship with its customers top to bottom, whereas Nintendo likes to own that relationship with its customers. So I bet there's some headbutting there.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess also now that I'm thinking about it, for adults who are on the road, you know, when we met up for Scoop Fest, everybody brought their Switch. You brought your Switch. Justin brought his Switch. Mikey brought his Switch. If it's a choice between bringing a giant iPad or a tablet, you know, you're like, nah, I don't want that. I just want my Switch and my phone. Then it's like, of course, you're going to want to watch content on the Switch over the phone.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. This may be my favorite email we've gotten in a long time. Dominic says, "Hey, Tom, Brian, and Bryce. We've been cord cutters for 10 plus years. We've never had Sling or any of the other over-the-top services. In fact, we've only ever had Netflix DVD by mail, which we still have today. That's how you get Smokey and the Bandit and Plex. Last month, after talking to my wife and our 2 teenagers, we signed up for Sling. The kids have never watched linear TV. They were excited to get access to TV, and day 1, they watched it for 8+ hours. By day 3, they were complaining about the amount of commercials and that most of the time channels were playing reruns. Day 6, I was informed linear TV was dumb and I could cancel Sling. I expected to pay for at least a month or 2, but they got bored with traditional TV before the free trial ended. Both the kids and my wife went immediately back to Twitch or YouTube as their content of choice. At least in my home, it looks like my cord never kids won't be clamoring for cable or similar services anytime soon."
That is remarkable. We've never gotten that story before. That's fantastic.
I know. And that's sort of like A/B test of like, let's take these children who have been carefully scientifically sealed off from live TV and introduce it to them. What do they think?
Oh, you know what? We didn't even check in with you, Andrew. Are you where are you on the cord shaving spectrum?
No cable. Cut all the cable, and I use for live television. I use YouTube Live, except on my Fire Stick because YouTube Live is not on the Fire TV.
Right.
So I use a relative Sling TV, which is abysmal. So, but I've cut total cable. I'm Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff. But I just couldn't pay the 100 and X amount to watch something I don't watch.
So George has an exasperated email that begins, "So why does the $16 Philo service have the best user interface of all the services I've tried? I've tried Sling, Hulu, PS View, YouTube TV. I haven't seen Sling since they added a grid, but the others are pretty bad. I dropped Sling and Hulu fairly quickly, settled on PS View for quite some time. Their vertical grid was always a pain, especially on the Roku. You could see show titles, but very little show info without clicking at least once. I recently dropped PS View and replaced it with the combination of YouTube TV and Philo. The grid on YouTube TV is a real puzzle. The time scale's all over the place, different for each network. If you want to see more than a few hours ahead, you need to go to each channel's individual page. And then here comes little Philo, a traditional grid with show titles and descriptions, icons that show other features right there on the same screen. Wow! You'd think they'd looked at TV listing grid designs that have been honed over a few decades of use. Astounding! All this, of course, is in my tunnel vision through a Roku. The others may be better on other devices. I will say that PS View I'll go to bat for on a full PC. I find it to be an absolute joy. It's completely simple and I really enjoy it.
View is really nice on the Apple TV too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still got that info problem when you're looking at the grid, though. I get that, and that is the thing. It's all of these interfaces are slightly different depending on the platform you're watching them on. They're all deficient because they're all trying to be better than your cable grid. When people are like, I just want the cable grid. I'm buying a cable replacement service. Just make it familiar.
I go based on what has the best quality video, and for me, it's been YouTube TV.
Yeah, PlayStation View gets a little compressed for me sometimes.
Yeah.
I will complain about that now that I have a better TV. But yeah, I mean, honestly, these will get better over time. But it is frustrating right now to be looking at some of these interfaces and knowing like this could really be better than it is right now.
But it's really interesting how the place to get ahead is not on the technology anymore. It's on the human interface side of things.
Yeah.
Like that's the unexplored territory where somebody can innovate and suddenly dominate the market.
We have a final request from one of our bosses, Rick, a longtime patron from Orlando, who says, my brother-in-law is looking into internet TV for his vacation home. He recommended Hulu TV or YouTube TV for what he wants. But Rick's question is, how hard is it to cancel or put on hold either of these services, which I can imagine is an important element when choosing a vacation home service? Well, first of all, if he's going to use it outside of the vacation home, then it doesn't matter. If you could use the same account you have at home in the vacation home. However, if it's I'm never going to use this anywhere else but the vacation home, Hulu makes it really easy to pause your subscription. I used to pause my regular Hulu subscription constantly because I'd get an email saying your pause is going off, and I'd go back in and pause it again. I haven't really done anything except cancel YouTube TV once a couple months ago. It was a little buried. It was easy to do once I found it. It was just a little hard to find the page, but all of them are much easier to cancel and resume than cable television where you had to call somebody.
I got it. Part of the reason I put this in the lineup is because I found that all of the services have been pretty good. Now, sometimes I have to, you have to bother to go to Google and type the words how to cancel PlayStation View, Sling.
Yeah, you got to find that link.
In which case, they usually have a link directly to the place, and then you flip the switch. And most importantly, no hassle, no harassment, no arguing, no fighting, none of that chicken challenge that we used to have to go through all the time. Now it's just like, hey, we'll see you again some other time. Hope you come back.
Yep. And speaking of hoping someone comes back, we hope Andrew Zarian comes back to Cordkillers. It's great having you on the show today, man.
Oh, it was great to be here. Can I just, I want to thank Tom on the air. So a couple of weeks ago, I did Daily Tech News Show with Tom and Sarah. And I don't know if you know this, Brian. It was the moment I realized that I needed to quit my job.
Whoa. How recently?
Yeah. I quit my job. My last day was last Friday.
Oh my God, we got to get on the phone because this is my favorite game to play, is to take people who are quitting their jobs and pump them up and give them push the max, test the envelope, flex the ripple.
I have to tell you, I give all the credit to Tom. So I did the show from my office in the city, and I went on and I had like a little studio set up there with the lights and all that stuff. And I'm doing the show and I was having a great time. And we ended the show. I said, I have to leave. And I got a ding that I need to go to a meeting. And I sat there for like a good minute and a half. And I said, what am I doing with myself? Why am I doing this? And I called my wife. I said, hey, by the way, I think I'm going to leave my job this week. And she goes, I think you should. And that's great.
Oh, that's great.
And I just decided that was it. And I went to my boss and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And he said, okay, do you want to still work for us from home?
That's amazing.
So I'm a consultant now. Obviously, it's not the money that I was making, going into Manhattan every day. But Tom was that was the moment, Tom. Seriously, I sat there. We spoke about podcasting. It was a conversation about podcasting.
Yeah.
And I really sat there for like a minute and a half, and I said, "What the f am I doing Why am I doing this? I could just go back to podcasting. I did it for 10 years, and I went to my boss that probably the next morning. Yeah, it was the next morning. Yeah, and I told him I'm not coming in anymore.
Dude,
Well,
congratulations.
the podcasting was always inside you, Andrew. I'm glad we were able to bring it back out again. That's fantastic.
Well, and
Yeah,
especially
so I thank Tom publicly on the air.
You stop.
my favorite part of the story is, as often happens when somebody goes to quit, usually it's like, well, what if you were just an outside consultant and continued to leverage your expertise but made more money and didn't have to come into the office and also could do whatever you want with the rest of your time? And it's like, that sounds pretty good. Dude, I'm so excited for you, man.
Yeah, so I'll be doing these a lot more, I guess. I'll be more of it because a couple times I couldn't do it, and it was crazy. I was doing like 12 hours. My commute and everything together was like 12, 13 hours. I'm like, what am I? It got nutty. So my goal is to be back and do way more podcasts and really, enjoy my life again.
That's so cool, man. I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm glad that it's already paying off with having you here on Cordkillers. That's the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried at diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will cut your cords again next week, whether you like it or not.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.